Thank you, Monica. And namaste, everyone from India. And yeah, hello, namaste, everyone. Um, oh, I'm really grateful to Philip, Shravani, and Monica for the opportunity. And I'm happy to be here with all the participants as well as fellow panelists. Um, Today, as a part of this, I would like to share some of my experiences studying bicultural diversity, especially in connection with the ethnic communities in India. I would quickly go and share my screen. So I would like to share with you my observations about cultural landscapes and more than human relationships, um, especially in the context of pastoralists, which I think a few of the earlier panelists are also talking about. Um, and there is a reason why I chose it. But before I go there, um, I'm sure that most of us here are familiar with this term called cultural landscapes. And cultural landscapes, as we see, they are either created by humans intentionally, or they are existing, or they exist naturally out there, or maybe a combination of both, which are created by humans and something that has natural and cultural relationship. But I was curious about in one question, that how cultural landscapes are created in the first place, and what is the role of humans and other than human subjects in creating these cultural landscapes, and what is the role of this more than human connections and culture in creation of these landscapes? Are the three questions that I was always interested in to explore when we talk about cultural landscapes. I know cultural landscapes are out there, but how they are created, what is the role of other than human subjects in creation of these landscapes, and what is the role of culture and more than human relationships between humans and nature and other um, animals, plants that are in this world to come together and create these landscapes. Um, but I chose to explore this through the lens of pastoralism, especially in India. And the reason why I chose this pastoralism are for two or many reasons for that. One, pastoralists as a ethnic group, they are not homogeneous. We have at least 15 to 20 different ethnic groups in India, accounts to around 13 to 15 million people in India, in different parts of the country. And most of these pastoralists are the reason why we have such huge livestock diversity in India. And you believe it or not, at least 70 to 75% or more than that of livestock that you find in India are reared and found or managed under open pastoral systems in India. And there is other reason why, there's one more reason I want to highlight over here, is that pastoralism is not recognized or officially not recognized uh, as a unique livestock production system in India. And right now, India doesn't have a national level policy for pastoralism. So which means it's not even recognized as a system in the first place. And second thing, the places, all the pastures, the commons, and the forests that pastoralists have been using for the past maybe 9,000 years are remains inaccessible to these pastoralists because of colonization. So following colonization, most of the forests are nationalized, which means they are under the control or more than 95% of the total forest lands, which are fundamental and which are very necessary for the survival of pastoral system, is now governed and controlled and managed by the forest department, which is again a relic of colonization. This forest department was established by the uh, by the colonizers like back then. And now the pastoralist like doesn't have any, they don't have access to these grazing pastures and lands, which are fundamental for them because now they are considered as encroachers. So because of all these reasons, and one more thing, especially when it comes to grasslands, mangroves, open natural ecosystems, deserts, and mountainous ecosystems, they were all categorized as wastelands. And this categorization was not based on scientific understanding of the ecology or ecosystem functions of these lands or these ecosystems, but these were categorized as wastelands because they are of no use for the crown by the colonizers, because in deserts, in open grasslands, or in open natural ecosystems and mangroves, one cannot do any agriculture, or you cannot have a large-scale plantations in these places. So British, like the colonizers, regarded these places as wastelands because they cannot generate any revenue. And we still have the colonial hangover, and we still hang on to the same definition of wastelands. But are these open natural ecosystems and grasslands are wastelands? But I want to say like them from the cultural landscape perspective. And through this presentation, I would like to show and present and share with you how cultural landscapes are created among these grasslands and open natural ecosystems by one of the 20 different pastoral ethnic communities that we find in India. Now, I'm going to share the cultural practices and belief systems of one of the pastoral communities, Nanda Gauli, who are found in the central India. And Nanda Gauli is basically uh, one of the pastoralist communities, and they predominantly rear and keep cattle and buffaloes. But to understand the origin of Nanda Gauli community, probably one has to go and dig deeper into the holy books of Bhagavad Gita and other holy scriptures of India, because Nanda Gauli people consider themselves as the direct descendants of Lord Krishna. And Nanda Gauli community forms a very strong relationship with the livestock and the grasslands where they live. And every monsoon season, which is during July to almost October, we have a monsoon season in India where we have these rains that occur in India. And monsoon season is at its peak during the month of August. And during month of August, Nanda Gauli community celebrate a particular festival called Baldev Festival. And Baldev Festival is associated with this particular grass, where you can see right there, right at the center. This particular grass is called Lavanya grass in the locally in Marathi. And Nanda Gauli community consider this grass as the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Um, and what Nanda Gauli community does during at this particular point of time, this festival is celebrated for at least 10 to 12 days. And for all these 12 days, Nanda Gauli community do not graze their cattle on the grasslands. And reason for that is, I mean, if you see that from the scientific perspective, from the spiritual perspective, they devote these 12 days in worshiping Lord Krishna, but they stall and they suspend all the economic activities, which means they do not milk the cow, they do not sell dairy products to everybody, and for all these 12 days, like they remain immersed in worshiping Lord Krishna. But from the scientific perspective, if we observe what happens like during those 12 days, is that the lavanya grass, like in where you can see here, it comes into bloom. And in those 12 days is when the seeds are formed uh, of this lavender grass. By suspending grazing, what Nandagauli community are doing is they are not interfering and they're not damaging the reproductive cycle of, of the grass. So after the 12 days, when the seeds are completely formed, then the Nandagauli community allows the cattle to graze on these lands. But also towards the end of the 12 days, so during the process, what they do is they pick tufts of these panicles. You can see the panicles like right there of the grass. They bring a few tufts home and then put them right there, and they do and perform a kind of rituals. You can see in the right left corner, like there are tufts of this grass, and people like can offer bananas and some other coconut and grains, and they continue worshiping the grass as incarnation of Lord Krishna. And they do that like for about like 4 or 5 days. And at the end of the 12th day, the entire village comes together and everybody brings these tufts of grasses like in which they worship for about 4 or 5 days. And all the children like take a procession uh, around the village. So in a way that they're taking Lord Krishna and a procession around the village. And once the procession is over, they dump all this grass into a flowing water, not a stagnant water, but it's a flowing water. But you see that from the scientific perspective. Once you have the seeds and you leave them and float them in flowing water, the seeds are dispersed far and wide.
Beautiful.
And apart from that, because like the cattle are not allowed to graze for 12 days, and once the seeds are already formed and developed, after you allow the cattle like to graze, once the cattle graze the grass and the seeds are into the system, of course, like the vegetative part is digested, but the seeds remain. And once the cattle like leaves dung everywhere, the seeds would again germinate. So in that way, the grassland management is taken care of. So the humans, cattle, nature, grasslands, and the grasses, all these systems are working in harmony to create a very sustainable system over a long period of time. And what is ensuring this is cultural sustainability. Imagine a system like in where you don't have culture or a ritual like Baldev. So you don't see cattle, humans, nature, grass, everything coming together. You don't see like people not sending the cattle or not grazing the cattle for 12 days, especially when the grass is during its reproductive cycle. So that's the reason why the cultural sustainability is so important. And Baldev Festival is a very good example of interconnectedness, interdependence, care, and kinship. A kinship, it's not just like in humans and humans, but a kinship between the plants, livestock, human beings, and nature. And you see care here because people care their futures, their cattle, the grasslands, which are vital like for their survival. They care for the nature. And apart from that, how do these people know that these grasses like comes into fruiting at that particular point? That is the indigenous knowledge, the traditional knowledge, the understanding of nature, observation of this nature very closely. And you can also see it's not just the old generation like that is taking part in this, but you'll see right here when the people like who are taking the possessions are mostly kids. In that way, you are transferring that knowledge to the kids and making them a part of like this culture right from the childhood. Because if you want someone to be a part of it, catch them young and let them know like the importance of it. Like, and it's necessary to instill like those values and beliefs and the knowledge right from the childhood. If you don't instill that at that age, you can't expect like when they grow up, like they actually take this interest in these things. So Baldev is a very good example of how is an example of interconnectedness, interdependence, care, and kinship, and how like all these elements come together to in a harmonious way. There is no destruction in this. It's a harmonious way uh, for sustainable management of grasslands, and it's one example. And there is another example of this one called Bel Pola. Bel Pola is a festival of oxen and the cattle. So maybe during September, when because India predominantly is an agrarian country, historical and even now also. So, and if you see, cattle is the backbone of agriculture in India, and at least 40%, despite of like a lot of tractorization in India, a lot of these activities are still carried, agriculture activities are like still performed like by cattle. But cattle are not considered as a commodity, but cattle are considered like with a lot of reverence in India, especially. And after the agriculture season is done, once agriculture operations are completed, there is a particular festival that is celebrated called Bel Pola, right in the center in central India, where this festival is observed for at least like 3 days, where the oxen are decorated, and there'll be a lot of processions like in around. People take pride in their oxen. They take them around. I'm sure like these kind of festivals like are also found in other parts of the world. And look at the crafts here. So all these embellishments, all these crafts, like these are decorations or the decoratives or costumes for oxen. And there is a huge economy. And there is a craftsmanship right there. So there are artisans like who are working for that. And we haven't quantified like the kind of economy like that goes into it, but I'm sure like it's a lot of economy right there. There are like so many artisans involved in there. And here you will see again the same thing: nature, people, livestock, and arts and everything like can come together. It's again another example of interconnectedness, interdependence, kinship, and care. The reason why this particular festival is celebrated is because farmers care for the oxen, and this is a way they thank the cattle for contributing to the agriculture operations in this area. And moving on, of course, these are all like in a few pictures from the same Balpola. You'll see like an entire community coming together. It's not just animals and cattle. It's actually a community coming together. Everybody is out there. It's like festival season. It's so festive. It's so vibrant. It's so colorful. Um, and here you can see this is a part of like in a similar festival uh, where people, especially pastoralists, they worship the baton and the pole, like in where the cattle are tied. Even a pole or a baton, like in which is used to control or shepherd cattle, is considered sacred, and it's one way of like giving them or saying thanks to their contributions. And so here again, like you see the same kind of interconnectedness in there. Even a baton is considered sacred, like by the pastoralists, like in most parts of India. It's even a part of like the part and parcel of the system, and that is not even left out. And you can see, like when you see all this, like it just appears to be just a puddle. It's just a puddle, water, and buffaloes just wallowing. But trust me, Nandagali community has another festival called Do Puja, which is worship of ponds. And inside the forest, like there are many ponds, and each of the family has like few ponds, like who under their control. And every end of the season, maybe towards December or January, the entire family goes to these dobs of like wherever like these dobs are, and they perform like certain rituals to thank the water body for taking care of their buffaloes. It's a kind of like sacredness. They consider them sacred and they revere them. And there's a sense of like a sacredness and thanksgiving, like a thanking like the nature for everything like that nature has been providing these people. Here again, you see between water, grass, people, livestock, and ponds, a kind of interconnectedness, interdependence, care, and kinship. It's a wonderful and beautiful example of that. Like, and then everything like is coming together in a very harmonious way. And we did like certain observations. As I said earlier, most of these daubs and these grasslands are now found inside the protected areas where people, most of the pastoralists do not have access anymore. So once the pastoralists are kept away from accessing these daubs, the consequence of that is most of the daubs like got silted over a period of time and they're flattened and there is no more catchment of rainwater. As a result, the entire region has now turned dry because when the buffaloes like were moving in and out, they maintain a shallow, a certain depth. And there is a kind of like a recycle because like they also add dung to it. There's a kind of like recycle of nutrients. But once buffaloes like stop moving in and out, this very easy, very quickly, the entire area becomes flattened and no more like the rainwater is kind of concentrated or caught there. And over a period of time, the lush green spaces have now turned dry in this place. But the forest department like doesn't necessarily consider this because forest department only thinks and speaks about biodiversity conservation, but not necessarily cultural conservation. And cultural conservation is like so important like, for conservation of biodiversity. And that interconnectedness, interdependence is not a part of Anglo-European and exclusionary colonial models of conservation of biodiversity, which is doing more harm than good, but we are slow to realize that. So all the examples like that I gave just clearly shows that you see people, nature, culture, and plants and animals. And there is interconnectedness, there is kinship, care, and interdependence among them. And all these things, like when they are in harmony, and the nucleus of this, like what is holding them all together is culture. And if I remove that cultural sustainability, eliminate that, all this web like completely falls apart. And that is like very important for us to understand why cultural sustainability is necessary than all the other sustainabilities, because that is right there at the center. But not everything is good in India right now, as I said, because after colonization, all the forests have become like a national property. Now, all the local communities who had been living there for, I don't know, maybe thousands of years, have become encroachers overnight. Now they're excluded like from the protected areas, from sanctuaries, from reserve forests, and all other kinds of forests in India. That is one problem. And the other problem, as I mentioned earlier, all the natural open ecosystems, including grasslands, deserts, mangroves, salt marshes, and mountainous forests or mountainous regions are categorized as wastelands, and we have not reclassified them as of now. And we still consider them as wastelands. And more than 20 million hectares of these open natural ecosystems have been diverted for other commercial urbanization, agriculture, and industrialization. So 11% of the total Indian geographic area is covered under open natural ecosystems. By definition, by the colonial definition, 11% of the total landmass of India is wasteland. Now imagine 11% of open natural ecosystems are not considered as ecosystems, but wastelands, because some colonizers define them that way. And that is a huge threat for interconnectedness, interdependence, care, and kinship, which I shared. But for that, there is a revolution like that is necessary, a radical revolution that is necessary to reclaim what is under threat right now. With that, I'll stop here. And thank you so much for your patience. And I hope I could, I don't know like whether I could articulate it in a way which everybody could understand. I hope I did. I tried, and I hope the message, I could share the message with you all. Thank you so much for your patience and listening.
Extremely clear, Kanna. It's
Thank you.
very eye-opening and it's very important, I think. It's not something we often speak about, I must say, Monica. It's really interesting to go also in this direction. I have one design question. The first image you showed, a sort of interior with a sort of temple or altar. What was this all about?
So that belongs to a particular community called Gond. Gond
Yeah.
is one of the ethnic communities in India. So they are found in the central India, and that is a temple.
It is.
Yeah, it is a temple.
It looked like a design exhibition to me.
No, it's actually a temple.
Such
like
beautiful, beautiful works
Yes.
all together in colors. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you send me the picture?
Sure, sure. I will.
Okay.
I'll be more than happy to share.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.